everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Charles Freedman radio program. News talk from 9 to noon every weekday here on SantaCruzVoice.com. Pour that second cup of coffee, kick back, and get ready to participate in the discussion. You can just be a listener if you want. That's fine. I'm happy to have you. But if you'd like to be more proactive, you need a telephone number to join the program. Try 831-265-5050. 831-265-5050, and you can make yourself a part of the conversation. I'll do even better than that. You can not only make yourself a part of the conversation, you can direct the conversation. You are offered the opportunity when you call this program to raise whatever issue you want to raise. If it's germane to what I've been talking about, that's fine. If it's something entirely different, your call is equally welcome. You say that's the same. Yes, as a matter of fact, I think it is. I don't know of any other talk show host, any other radio host who extends to his callers the right to simply take the program in whatever direction they want. I am unique. Huzzah! Okay, let's open today's discussion with a little bit of reflection on the flap going on over redistricting battle, a gerrymandering battle being fought in Texas. Today, there is more public attention being focused on this. Readers of the Wall Street Journal will have the opportunity to look at maps of Illinois' congressional districts and see how outrageously gerrymandered they are. Under this map, Illinois reelects 14 Democrats and 3 Republicans to the House of Representatives. So Republicans have 18% of Illinois' 17 House seats. But they got over 40%, something like 43% of the vote for Congress in the last election. So Illinois is really a poster child for gerrymandering. I believe that attention is being focused on Illinois because for some reason that is where the Texas Democrat legislators who've chosen to leave the state in order to deprive the legislature of a quorum, they've gone to Illinois, where they've been welcomed by Governor J.B. Pritzker, a multi-billionaire who has put them up in fine hotels. They're living the life of Riley. They're having a great time. They're getting a vacation. A vacation. And as a matter of fact, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is saying this may constitute bribery. There's a $500 a day fine connected with not showing up on the floor of the legislature to do the job that people elected you to do. And if you decide not to be there, well, there are consequences for that. So these legislators are saying, well, we don't care about that. We've got plenty of people who are stepping up to pay our fines. And the governor's saying that could constitute an illegal act. These people are evidently providing you with a valuable consideration, i.e. money, in order to do something they want you to do. So there's all kinds of ramifications to this. But the major story seems to be, well, both sides do this, and it's one of these things where it's an odious practice, but it's part of American politics and so on. But why is it front and center on our radar right now? I mean, gerrymandering is nothing new, for gosh sakes. As we discussed briefly yesterday, it's been around for 200 years. So why all of a sudden is it a cause celeb? Because President Trump decided to make it one. Mr. Trump communicated with Republican leaders in the state of Texas and said, hey, we can get more Republicans out of Texas. Let's redraw the lines. And such is Mr. Trump's influence in the Republican Party today that when he makes a suggestion, it's not really a suggestion, it's an order. And hence all of this Sturm und Drang. Last night, looking at some videos on this topic, I was drawn to the presentation made by Dana Perino. Dana Perino is a commentator on Fox News. She is a conservative. During the Bush administration, I believe she was his press secretary. So she's somebody who has labored long in the vineyards of public opinion, communication, and is a staunch conservative. She made a number of remarks, but her concluding point was one I found most interesting. She concluded by saying, this isn't really necessary. So the whole idea here is to improve the Republican position for the midterm elections next year. The House is very evenly divided, and this is the rather obvious surface reason for this action. But she said Republicans are not in bad position for the midterms. If Mr. Trump's policies produce the results that Mr. Trump say they will produce, then we really don't need to resort to these extreme or extraordinary measures in order to continue a majority in the House of Representatives. In other words, Ms. Perino made the point that this was a fight, a controversy that needn't have been. As she spoke, I thought about a column that Peggy Noonan had written a few weeks ago, in which she talked about fight, fight, fight as being the mantra of the Trump administration. And she made the point that for Trump, the fight is the thing. It's not even what you're fighting, it's just the mere act of fighting, of starting a confrontation. Now, sometimes that has served Mr. Trump well, sometimes not. In this particular instance, I think Ms. Perino came up with a good point. This is a fight that didn't need to happen. And the fact that right now, when Mr. Trump is attempting to make peace in Ukraine, for example, today's Wednesday, day after tomorrow is Friday. What does that mean? Well, that'll be 10 days. Remember, not that long ago, Mr. Trump said, I'm pretty well out of patience with Vladimir Putin. I had said 50 days for him to consider a ceasefire. Forget that. I want something, yes or no, in 10 days. Otherwise, there's going to be serious consequences. I think we can all agree that this is far more important than what's going on in Austin, or not going on in Austin. Mr. Trump is leaving his imprint on the American economy. He is touting his accomplishments. His opponents are decrying his actions and saying these will lead to rack and ruin. These are the big issues facing the country right now. Mr. Trump is prosecuting his success at the border. He is running a program of deportation at home. There's controversy about it. I can understand it. My idea when I voted for Donald Trump, insofar as immigration was concerned, was, well, we've just let in 12 million people. Joe Biden let in 12 million people in the last couple of years. Let's find those people and send them home. But Mr. Homan's ICE agents are now out finding people who've been here for 15, 20 years. Some of them are homeowners, for God's sake. They pay taxes. They've had jobs for a long time. And yet they become targets for deportation. This is not something that even Trump supporters are particularly enthusiastic about. These are the big issues. These are the issues that America will rise or fall on. And of course, since he is president right now, obviously Mr. Trump and his administration and his party will rise or fall on them too. But the important part is we have America's business to be done. And to the extent that Mr. Trump undertakes fights that distract from that business, he gets in his own way. And this, I think, is my bottom line view on this redistricting kerfluffle. It is another example, and we've seen so many of them over the past few years, of Mr. Trump producing a controversy or starting a fight or something of this nature that is not productive to his ultimate goals. Mr. Trump, maybe this is one of the reasons why he has a lot of popular appeal. We seem to live in a country today that is easily distracted by shiny objects. And Mr. Trump seems to be of that ilk. He too is easily distracted by shiny objects. And this, I think, is what we are seeing right now with this redistricting mess. What will finally happen? Gosh, as I often note on this program, my crystal ball is broken. But if I had to guess, I would say that Texas will redraw its maps. Governor Pritzker is saying, well, if Texas will redraw. I'd like to know how. As I look at the state of Illinois, it is already so drastically gerrymandered that it is difficult to see how more extreme a job could be done. Governor Newsom here in California is making similar noises. Again, in California, the last election resulted in something like 15% of the seats going to Republicans, whereas they received 40% of the votes. So California is already pretty thoroughly cut up to favor the Democrats. Incidentally, one other thing I might mention to those people who are still just really enthusiastic about this move. This happens to be a fact. I may not like it, but nevertheless it is a fact. Think back to the last election, the one 2024 when President Trump was elected president. Well, on that same day, at that same election, a new House of Representatives was elected. All 435 members are up every 2 years. You know that. The final result was 220 Republicans, 215 Democrats. A Republican margin of 5 seats. Now, what that means is that Republicans came within, 3 seats of losing the majority. How do you figure? Well, remember, if Republicans lose one, Democrats gain one. So if Republicans lost 3 seats, they'd go from 220 to 217. Democrats would go from 215 to 218, and then they would have the majority. So 3 seats. That's the magic number. In the year before the 2024 election, North Carolina, a Republican state, redrew its congressional districts in such a way as to maximize Republican seats from North Carolina. It was a successful operation, and in 2024, Republicans gained 4 seats in the state of North Carolina. You see where I'm going with this? How's your math? Very simple math, simple addition and subtraction. Let's say North Carolina had not done that. Let's say they hadn't redrawn their map, and although this is not necessarily the case, let's say that all of the members from North Carolina had been reelected, or that all of those seats would have remained in the same partisan hands. Well, that takes 4 seats away from the Republicans and gives them to the Democrats, which hands over the speakership to Hakeem Jeffries. So maybe Perino, what's her name? Dana Perino. Maybe she's wrong. Maybe this is a necessary battle. Maybe those few seats from Texas will make the difference between whether Republicans retain the majority or not. And of course, one of those Republicans is Mr. Massey of Kentucky, who always votes with the Democrats. So, I don't know. I do not like gerrymandering. I'll make it very clear, this is a practice I find odious. So, why, Charles, do you tap dance around it? Why do you seem to justify it? Why is there even a question? It's because of self-defense. North Carolina redistricted last year. Well, states like Maryland and Illinois and California had already cut themselves up into salami in order to benefit Democrats. So Republicans, unfortunately, this is one of those cases where 2 wrongs don't make a right. They never do. But 2 wrongs balance out. 2 wrongs level the playing field. If one side gerrymanders and the other side doesn't, the side that doesn't is unilaterally disarming itself, politically speaking. And I have never been an advocate of unilateral disarmament. I am not George McGovern. So what can I say? This is one of those instances where I have to hold my nose and say, we have to do this. It's a matter of self-defense and self-protection. And those are understandable and absolutely defensible doctrines. This is one of those things where I just, at the end of the conversation, I don't feel comfortable. I'm not happy with it. I want decent politics. Always reminds me of a time. This is the way I learned the game. What was the year? 1960, I guess. My mother at that time was county chairman for Nixon for president in Stanislaus County. And she was up to her eyebrows in political activity. I mean, she spent hours a day doing this, on the phone, working with people, visiting the house, local politics, retail politics. She put together an organization. People who were responsible for their precincts went out and talked to voters on their doorsteps and located Republicans. She said, years later, she told me, I put together a machine, a political machine. And my mother and I were active participants. We would go out and canvass door to door. She took me with her because if we had one extra person, even though I was, at that time, let me see, 9 years old, I guess. Yeah, 8 or 9 years old, something like that. Definitely a child. Nevertheless, capable of walking from door to door, handing out campaign literature, knocking on doors. Hi there, my name's Charles Freedman. I live in this area, and I'm working to elect Mr. Nixon President, I'd like you to read this brochure, please. Basic stuff. Well, one of the things that we had to contend with one day, there were obviously other people working for Senator Kennedy. And they, too, were going door to door and handing out literature. Now, sometimes you knock at a door, nobody's home. The door doesn't open. So what do? You leave your literature and go to the next door. Well, I remember this day clearly. One of my earliest memories. I come to a door, I knock on the door, nobody's there. I notice that there's Kennedy for President literature there. And it occurs to me, maybe what I ought to do is leave my literature, and I could pick up that Kennedy literature, take it with me, so that the voter would not have a chance to see it. They'd only see the literature that I left. And I thought, that maybe that's not the right. Maybe what I ought to do, remember, I'm 8 years old. I'll ask Mom what to do. So that's exactly what I did. I said, Mom, here's the situation. Should I pick up this Kennedy stuff and take it with me or leave it here? And she said, you leave it right where it is. She said, that's, what if you had been by first and left your literature and the other guy came by and took yours? You wouldn't be very happy about that, would you? You'd feel you'd been cheated. You came around, you did your job, and somebody stole the material you left behind. She said, you leave that where it is. Leave your own. Go ahead and leave your own, but you leave that Kennedy brochure right next to it. And it was moments like that, and from my mom, that I learned how the game ought to be played, how decent people do it. You fight hard, you fight tough, you fight clean. What was it Teddy Roosevelt once said? Don't flinch, don't foul, and hit the line hard. Well, gerrymandering doesn't fit into that, does it? It's, once again, does it pass that test? How would you like it if it was done to you? And in California, that's exactly what we look at. We have this super majority of Democrats in the legislature. How do you think that's possible? They've drawn their own districts to satisfy themselves, to guarantee their reelection. Now, how in the world can that ever be overcome? It takes a serious wave election to do it. It can happen. But it's got to be a real movement. And in California today, I don't see that happening. There's no energy on the Republican side at all to speak of, and certainly no leadership. Nationally, we have a dynamic leader, a flawed leader, one whom I understand is quite problematic. Nevertheless, he's effective, and that creates its own reality. So when Mr. Trump calls up Governor Abbott and Republican leaders in the state of Texas and says, hey, we can get 5 more seats out of Texas, I want you to do it. They say, okay. Do I condone and support this? No, I can't. Can I understand it? Absolutely. And if we could go back to having a fair map here in California, we'd probably have another 5 seats or so out of California. We wouldn't have a majority of the seats, but we don't get a majority of the vote in California. So instead of Texas gerrymandering, what I would advocate is that California ungerrymander. And yeah, right, when pigs fly. Okay, it's 9:30. I am going to run our first commercial break. 831-265-5050 is the telephone number if you have observations on this topic or wish to raise another one.
Back in the 16th century, a famous prophet and psychic, Nostradamus, predicted great disasters. Hundreds of years later, believe it or not, a lot of his predictions have come true. Today we have another psychic and prophet among us. His name is Nostradamus. His great ability to predict when home repairs, primarily a roof, will become a much-needed thing is truly remarkable. His predictions have been renowned and recorded for many years now. Yes, Nostradamus can be found, a key owner at Knox Roofing, and he can give you accurate advice on when your roof will leak. His ability to see your home completed with only the best products and services is truly amazing. If you need a sitting with Nostradamus, all you need to do is call 461-0634, and you can receive a free reading of your home's life and its life-changing events about to occur. Okay, thanks, folks.
Treehouse dispenses not only the finest cannabis products, but information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Hello, I'm Jenna. If you would like to know how best to use cannabis, ask your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive. If you're 21 plus with a valid ID, no appointment is necessary and the information is free. Order online at ourtreehouse.io and pick up at our drive-thru. See you soon.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on SoCal Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Okay, it is 9:34, and we are halfway through today's first hour. 831-265-5050 is the telephone number if you would like to be on the program and raise an issue, comment on an issue. Well, again, what you say is up to you, and the topic is up to you. 831-265-5050. Yesterday, I devoted a considerable amount of time to the topic of the real hoax going on right now. We're learning more and more about the hoax that was perpetrated years ago, about how Donald Trump was an agent of the Russians and all that. A bunch of nonsense. But that's all in the rearview mirror now. And all we can do is attempt to shine a light on the malefactions that were committed at that time. Attorney General Bondi, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, these brilliant women are working very hard on this. But I made the point that there's a bigger hoax going on today, right now, that we are living in the midst of and witnessing the effects of. This is the propaganda hoax being perpetrated on a daily basis by Hamas with the willing cooperation of the legacy media. Just as the Russia hoax was enabled and propagated by the legacy media. These are people who seem today to take pride and pleasure in, instead of doing their jobs and attempting to shine a light on hoaxes and reveal them and strip away the mask. No, they are willing participants. They not only pull the wool over your eyes, they pull it over their own. Well, yesterday we focused on the malefactions of Hamas and the fact that here's an organization that commits bloody atrocity and today is starving both Jews and its own people, and yet they are depicted sympathetically in the international press. And it seems reasonable for us to wonder if you are, say, Benjamin Netanyahu or somebody in the Israeli government who has the responsibility for making decisions as what's a mother to do, as Rap Brown would have said. Well, the answer seems to be complete the occupation of Gaza. That's why I'm bringing about today. This is the new development. Benjamin Netanyahu is making the announcement now that despite the opposition of the chief of staff of the country's armed forces, he is getting ready to convene Israel's security cabinet this week to direct the armed forces on how to achieve the country's war aims to defeat Hamas and ensure it never returns as a threat. What is their justification for this? Well, Hamas, I guess you could say they made a mistake. Yesterday they released images, photographs of one of the remaining hostages, one of the ones who's still alive, just barely so. This emaciated, gaunt individual looks like some of the survivors who were liberated from the death camps of the Third Reich at the end of World War II. A walking skeleton. And indeed, in one image, you see another hand reaching out to give this person a cup of water or something, and this arm that's reaching out, strong, healthy. So the Hamas terrorists are trying to hawk the propaganda line. Oh, we have no food. We can't give the hostages any food. We have no food. A blatant, obvious, and easily revealed lie. Hamas people are eating very well. The same cannot be said for their hostages, nor can it be said for the people of Gaza, the Palestinians of Gaza, for whom we are all supposed to bleed, sigh, and weep. And yes, that's a reasonable reaction. They are suffering, but at whose hands? The propaganda narrative is it is the evil Jews who are doing this. Just as the propaganda narrative for 4,000 years has been the evil Jews are doing fill in the blank. This time, the distortion of reality is absolute. It's 180 degrees out from what reality is. The people who are responsible for the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza are Hamas. A more bloody-minded group of human beings would be difficult to find on the face of today's earth. I cannot think of anybody else as dedicated to sheer evil as Hamas. They prove this on a daily basis. How? By keeping their hostages, the majority of whom now are dead. The Israelis are looking at, I think there's something like 50 or 60 remaining hostages. 35 or 40 of them are dead. They're corpses. The Israelis want their bodies back so they can be returned to their families for decent burial, to allow these grieving families some degree of closure. Hamas is too mean even for that. They won't even return corpses. Again, it is difficult for sane, rational, normal, civilized people to even understand the mindset, the thinking of Hamas. They are so thoroughly evil, so utterly without human feeling or compassion. They are the ultimate fanatics. You want to see commitment? By God, there it is. Taken to a degree so extreme that it becomes not praiseworthy, but horrifying. The world yearns and calls for an end to the conflict. It is very easily accomplished. Release the hostages. Right now, Prime Minister Netanyahu is working on a final push into the remaining unoccupied areas of Gaza where Hamas still obtains and where they have their hostages sequestered. What if Hamas released the hostages? What would happen to this plan of Mr. Netanyahu for this further military action? Do you believe it would go forward? Of course not. Hamas is so perverted. They believe, literally, they believe they are ensuring their existence and their influence by keeping the hostages. They think if we give up the hostages, we are lost. The fact of the matter is, it's the hostages that are guaranteeing their extermination. As long as they continue to keep them. And for that reason, I can see where a really radical, utterly amoral person on the other side would say, attaboy, Hamas, you keep those hostages. You keep them because the longer you do, the more justification there is for hunting you down to the last man and exterminating every single one of you. That will be the result. And there are a significant number of people who have come to that realization. They themselves have had their thinking perverted by Hamas. When you're confronted by an evil this manifest, this absolute, you react, my God, I've got to protect myself. How do I protect myself? Hamas must be eliminated. And yet the current chorus among the so-called civilized political actors of the world is to reward not the steadfastness and determination of the Israelis, but rather the atrocities of Hamas. The leaders of France, Canada, and the United Kingdom think they're doing a good deed by saying they'll soon recognize a state of Palestine at the United Nations. Maybe they should listen to the response from Hamas. They think this recognition is a reward for slaughtering Jews and keeping hostages. That's the only way to interpret comment Saturday by Ghazi Hamad. He is a member of the Hamas Politburo. He's a leader of Hamas, speaking on Al Jazeera. The powerful blow that was delivered to Israel on October 7th has yielded three very important historical achievements. First, it brought the Palestinian cause back. Why are all these countries recognizing Palestine now? Good question. The overall outcome of October 7th, Mr. Hamad continued, forced the world to open its eyes to the Palestinian cause and to act forcefully in this respect. Massacre, as a political strategy, has long been Hamas' practice, but it's still remarkable to hear it stated with such frankness. The three Western countries demanding that Israel accept a ceasefire, but Israel already has accepted a ceasefire. Hamas rejects the ceasefire. Did you know that? If you're listening to this program, you probably did. Most of the people who listen to this program are pretty well informed. But more casual consumers of news and current events, people who simply read maybe the headline, the first paragraph of stories in the major press. Oh no, those terrible Jews. Why do they have to be so stubborn? Why do they have to be so... Why won't they accept a ceasefire? Why do they want to starve the Palestinian people? How many people believe that? Because how many people are told that? And who are they told it by? Their newspapers who are echoing Hamas. This is the great hoax in today's world. And now it is actually leading, as I pointed out here, there are national leaders in places like France and the United Kingdom who are being influenced by this and who are saying, oh, my God, those awful Jews, we've got to recognize a Palestinian state because Israel is behaving so badly. After the recognition news, Hamas won't even come to the table. It prefers to foil aid distribution to Gaza and drag out the civilian suffering, confident it can manipulate Western opinion by blaming Israel for the hunger photos it uses to influence the gullible West. Good job, everyone. France, the United Kingdom, and Canada call on Hamas to demilitarize. But Mr. Hamad on Al Jazeera declared that, anathema, the weapons constitute the Palestinian cause. Surrendering our weapons means the end of resistance and the end of the Palestinian cause. This is the same Mr. Hamad who said a few weeks after October 7th, we will do this again and again. Less publicized, but equally telling, was his explanation. We are the victims. Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do. On October 7th, on October 10th, on October 1 millionth, everything we do is justified. Please, we have learned over the past few years of an incredible ability of Israeli intelligence to locate and Israeli forces to neutralize leaders of these terrorist organizations. We saw leaders of Hezbollah, one after another, located and killed. We saw a leader of Hamas in Tehran, staying at the Hotel Ayatollah or wherever the hell he was, in a room where the Israelis had planted a bomb, and when he went in there and took up residence, they exploded it and killed him. During the recent campaign against Iran, virtually all of the high command of the Iranian security and military forces were decapitated. Please, Israel, find this man, Hamad, and kill him. He is a blight on the planet. He is the voice and the face of violence, war, terrorism, torture. He makes Adolf Eichmann look good. Kill him. Find him and kill him. As you have found and killed so many other similarly minded people. If you can do this, perhaps, like Hezbollah, it's basically been decapitated. We're not hearing much more out of them anymore. Of course, the fact that they lost Assad in Syria, so their conduit to Iranian assistance and weaponry is now gone. I can't help but wonder where Hamas is getting. Well, they're not getting weapons anymore, unless there's tunnels we don't know about that they're still smuggling them in from Egypt. That's possible. And so far as food and other basic necessities, the Israelis are providing those. The United Nations are providing those. Israel attempts to get these packages of aid and human necessities to the Palestinian people. But the United Nations says no. We have to do that. And we make sure that Hamas gets their cut off the top. And Hamas then takes these supplies, keeps what they want. They're fat, dumb, and happy. And if there's any left over, they sell it to the Palestinians. When Israel, through its conduits, provides aid to Palestinians, they don't charge a penny. It comes free as assistance to suffering people should. 831-265-5050 is the telephone number. Again, the biggest, we're complaining, many of us here in this country today, about the hoax that was perpetrated on the American people a few years ago by a cabal of intelligence experts and political operatives in the Obama administration and the Clinton campaign. That was a massive hoax, and the details behind it have finally come to light. It took a change of administration to do that. It's interesting. During the first Trump administration, I guess it would have been possible for some of this investigation to be done. But Mr. Trump, like so many other first-year presidents, didn't yet understand where all the bodies were buried, didn't know where the men's room was. Furthermore, all of this was going on, all of this hoax fallout was going on at the time. He was so busy dodging landmines, he didn't have time to think of much else. The uncovering of that hoax is a big story. But again, an even bigger story is the hoax that's going on right now. This is not the Russia hoax. This is the Hamas hoax. The idea that Hamas is somehow worthy of any kind of international support or even sympathy. They are not. They are responsible for uncalculable amounts of human suffering, of violence, of degradation, of torture, of brutality that is beyond the conception of normal human beings. You and I would not set another human being on fire. We wouldn't do it. Hamas does. Did and does. We are not rapists. Hamas Yeah, that's part of their MO. The idea of taking a baby and smashing it against a wall. To us, this is the ultimate horror. Hamas took selfies of themselves doing this sort of thing. And in order to protect themselves, this has always been a source of wonderment to me. In order to protect themselves, they take hostages. At this point, those hostages are the main motivator for Israeli Defense Forces to keep coming after them. I say to the leaders of France, the UK, Canada, instead of abusing the Israeli leadership, call on Hamas to simply do one thing: release the hostages. You want a ceasefire? You want an end to the violence? Release the hostages. Dead and alive. Mr. Netanyahu is now calling for an occupation of the remainder of Gaza. The only justification he has to sell that policy is the recovery of the hostages. He has given his word to his people. As a democratically elected leader, he is actually answerable to the Israeli people. Unlike Hamas, they're answerable unto themselves. And to Allah, of course, and the Ayatollah. But if the hostages were returned, if Hamas could actually be persuaded to do something decent, humane, rational, all of the justification that Mr. Netanyahu has for pursuing this last military pressure, it would simply vanish. Gone. Not only would it become unsupportable, Mr. Netanyahu, being an intelligent and reactive politician, if the hostages were released, he would withdraw the idea. It would become untenable to urge further military action in Israel were the hostages returned. This is the way to obtain a ceasefire. And it is the one thing Hamas will not do. Perhaps they do have a death wish. And if so, I sincerely hope that the next few weeks will witness the Israeli forces engaging in an act of wish fulfillment. If the people of Hamas wish to die, then I'm hoping the Israelis facilitate that and make them happy by killing them and killing them and killing them. How's that for a pleasant way to end an hour? It's 10 o'clock at santacruzvoice.com. See you in 6 minutes. Okay, I've come up with a video from Babylon Bee. This is how they pitch ideas for stories and things at the Disney organization. And some of the people who comment says, the scary part, this is actually what's happening. This is not a comedy skit. This is actually how the people at Disney come up with ideas for movies. I loved how everyone rejects the one sane, reasonable guy in the whole room. It is super realistic. Well, good satire has to be based on truth. So here is how Disney comes up with ideas for new movies.
Okay, Dreamers of all ages. We got to come up with the next billion-dollar idea. As you know, Strange World, Turning Red, and Lightyear all flopped for some reason. Okay, I don't understand why we're not connecting with the audience. Okay, but whatever the case, we need to come up with something fresh. Okay, so what do you guys got for me?
Well, I've actually got a couple original ideas that I've been working on. If you want to take a look.
What's your original ideas? Okay, who's the chump?
He's the new guy.
Okay, classic new guy. No original ideas. We are going to the Disney vault to find something that we can remake. And I've got the perfect idea. Aladdin.
Yes, brown people are so in right now.
You already did that. It had Will Smith for some reason.
Okay, what if we remade Cinderella?
You did that too. Twice, I think. One of them had Brandy.
Okay,
She's brown too.
what if Cinderella is non-binary and we call it Cinderella Man?
That's a Ron Howard movie. It won an Oscar.
Okay, fine. What about Lion
You
King?
did that too.
You didn't let me finish, Hank.
Yeah, Hank, dummy.
Okay, we remake Lion King. Only this time it's a live-action remake of the upcoming cartoon remake of the live-action of the cartoon. It's a re-remake.
Oh, it's Riri.
I love it. Here's an idea. It's all female cast.
Yes.
Yes! Now we're cooking with zero carbon fuel alternatives. Okay? What else you got?
I love this idea, but I do think that it's lacking in representation. So, what if Simba has two dads?
Two dads, but I thought it was an all-female remake.
Shut
up,
up, Hank. And, okay, Mufasa has a secret. He's bi.
What if Lightning McQueen makes an appearance? We've got to cross-pollinate the brands. I learned that word in college.
Live-action Lightning McQueen? So, is he a CG car with a real person inside, or is he a real car with no person inside? Like, what exactly... Like, where are all the people?
And Simba gets thrown off Pride Rock. It's a pro-choice message.
Pride Rock.
Scar is actually the good guy.
Of course.
Giraffes and wheelchairs.
How would that even work?
Wheelchairs are in wheelchairs.
None of this makes sense.
Rafiki is an old man on an island who has disavowed the ways of the Jedi.
And all the lions can eat bugs to reduce carbon emissions. Hakuna Matata.
Oh, and all the parts are played by Lizzo.
It's beautiful.
Lizzo.
I love you, you dreamers of all ages.
Guys, look. The Mario movie just passed $1 billion in the box office. That's way more than all these other dumb movies. Pardon my, Knott's Berry Farm language. And it did without any of the woke stuff. It did it without drag queens. It did it without trans chicks or lesbos or gay scenes. Why don't we just focus on making a really good movie without all the sanctimonious preaching?
Okay, so what if Timon and Pumbaa are trans,
Yes!
right?
Yes!
Do you know who promises to never include gay stuff in their children's content? Brave Books, that's who. Studies show that our children's morality is ingrained by the age of 10, so what they're reading matters. Disney has made it clear that we cannot trust them with our kids. You know who has proven themselves as trustworthy? Brave Books! Go to bravebooks.com to save 20% off your entire purchase and subscribe.
Okay, they've got a little commercial on there for a worthy cause, but I definitely recommend that you, if you have a chance, use your device, type in Babylon Bee, Disney, and you should be able to get this rather easily. It is as amusing to watch as it is to listen to, but obviously the comedy here is sufficiently verbal to where you got a good solid jolt of it just by being able to listen to it. Okay, 1 minute left until we get back live again, so head break, get a snack, whatever. It's 10:06. Hour number 2 begins. This is the Charles Freedman radio program. News talk from 9 to noon here on this lovely Wednesday. Thanks for being with us. Love to have you with us in more ways than one. Don't be just a listener, be a caller as well. 831-265-5050 is the telephone number. Love to hear from you. The opportunity still exists for you to be our first caller today. A number of years ago, the American public was treated to an advertising campaign for Sunsweet pitted prunes. The slogan was, "Today the pits, tomorrow the wrinkles. Sunsweet marches on." Now, that advertising was conceived by Stan Freberg, and as an inspiration, he took a slogan from the Third Reich. Today Germany, tomorrow the world. National Socialism marches on. Well, obviously, Mr. Freberg was not a Nazi or Nazi sympathizer or anything, quite the opposite. But he did understand the value of a good piece of propaganda, and if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got some pitted prunes here, and I want to know if you can convince more people to buy them," well, he's going to put his historical sense and his wit to work, and he's going to come up with something like, "Hey, look at this. Today we've got the pits out of these prunes. Isn't that a wonderful thing? You can just eat the prunes and don't have to spit the pits out. But they're still all wrinkly. Maybe we'll work on that next. So today the pits, tomorrow the wrinkles. Sunsweet marches on." And it was successful. It sold prunes. Just as the earlier slogan was successful in its early stages, before, of course, Der Fuhrer decided to launch the country into Armageddon. But up until that time, up until he decided to go to war, Adolf had been on a roll. National Socialism had been the talk of the world. This was the other great model. What was the other model? Oh, well, Soviet socialism, of course. So you had two great dictatorial leaders, Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler, both hawking various brands of socialism. And you had, well, of course, the most outrageous example, Walter Duranty of the New York Times going to the Soviet Union and coming back and painting it with all roses and lollipops and rainbows. Hey, this is just wonderful over there. He gets a Pulitzer Prize for this story of how wonderful it was in the Soviet Union during a time when there was a government-sponsored famine going on and millions, literally millions, were starving to death. Makes what's going on in Gaza today look like a picnic in the park. Well, after all, as Joseph Goebbels told us, if you're going to tell a lie, tell a big lie. And the biggest lie being foisted off on us today is that socialism is a great way to run things. Socialism produces good results. How is this even possible when, in time after time, place after place, and in variant after variant, socialism has proven to be a recipe for, at best, stagnation, and at worst, Armageddon. It is the question of the year? No. The question of the year is how Hamas is getting away with it. This is the question of the century. Will this be the socialist century? I guess it's possible. In country after country today, socialism is now being promoted as the wave of the future. People might be forgiven, I guess, if they've forgotten the great socialist experiences of Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong. After all, these guys have been dead for years. Who are the great socialists of today? Well, I guess Xi Jinping's an example. Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, who continues to hold that country in his iron grasp, in spite of the fact that in their last presidential election, more than 2/3 of the voters cast ballots for his opponent. But under socialism, well, what was it Stalin once said? It's not who votes, it's who counts the ballots. That's what makes the difference. And in his socialist utopia, Mr. Stalin was in charge of counting the ballots. And in today's Venezuelan socialist utopia, Mr. Maduro counts the ballots. So it really doesn't matter who you voted for. What are other socialist countries? Let me see. There's North Korea, Cuba. The model has been rather discredited in some quarters of late, which is amazing when you consider how many people in, for example, the United States of America seem to think that this is a way to go. How is it possible? Well, once again, we have to point our finger at the media, who fail to report on the failures of socialism. Why do they do this? I think they do it for the same reasons that they fail to report on the excesses of Obama administration officials who promoted a Russia hoax. They fail to report on the atrocities of Hamas. It's out of an ideological alignment. This, of course, is not what journalism is all about. Journalism is about doing the serious work of uncovering facts and then publishing the truth so that the people may know it. That's journalism. When you open the New York Times today, you are not reading a product of journalism. You are reading a propaganda tract. When a group of people of like ideological bent get together and put out a publication designed to promote their ideas and discredit their opponent's ideas, this is called propaganda. Now, under the First Amendment to our Constitution, propaganda is perfectly legal. So, will you hear me saying the New York Times ought to be shut down by the government? Hell no. No, I would never say such a thing. I don't believe in that. It's those people who think that. We've heard them over the past few years. They talk about disinformation. They talk about fact checkers. Well, so long as they get to decide what is disinformation and they get to be the fact checkers, these things are great with them. And they would like them codified into law and given real authority. Remember, there's nothing liberal about the modern left. They actually call for the state to have the authority to decide what's disinformation and what isn't, and what should be suppressed and what shouldn't. That's the left. Excuse me. I've got a couple of things to share with you on this regard. One of them is by Dominic Green. He's turning his attention to British politics. The current Prime Minister of Great Britain, is a man named Keir Starmer. In the 650-seat House of Commons, his party enjoys a majority They've got over 400 out of 600 seats, so they have more than about 2/3 of the seats, maybe 60%, something like that. A strong majority. How did they get it? Well, in the last election, they came in first in a lot of constituencies, but they didn't get a huge share of the vote, about 33%. This is what happens when your opposition is divided. It makes it possible for you to win with a relatively small share of the vote. Friends don't let friends drive their economies into a wall and their people into a ditch. That was President Trump's message to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at Turnberry, Mr. Trump's Scottish golf resort, last month. The power dynamic was clear. Mr. Starmer and his wife Victoria climbed the resort steps. Donald Trump, son of Mary Ann MacLeod of the Western Isles off Scotland's coast, received the Starmers like a clan chieftain hosting George III's tax collectors. Messrs. Trump and Starmer may salute the uniform and call each other friends, but they are, politically speaking, enemies. Their press conference was humiliating for the floundering Labour leader. Mr. Trump called London's mayor, Labour Party Mayor Sadiq Khan, a nasty person who's doing a terrible job. He's a friend of mine, actually, Mr. Starmer sputtered. His defensive speech spoke volumes about Britain's political class, and much about the American political class that Mr. Trump has fought since 2016. Starmer assumes that his friendship with Mr. Khan places them both beyond reproach. They are elected officials, but they claim the privileges once enjoyed by bishops or aristocrats. Their presumption is the old class power by another name. It is corrosive to law and democracy. British call it chumocracy. In his 2022 book, Chums, the journalist Simon, but bear in mind, this is not the kind of chum that you throw over the side of a boat to collect sharks. A chum is a friend, a pal, a buddy. The journalist Simon Cooper analyzed how a cohort of rivalrous frenemies from the 1980s Oxford rose through the coteries of private school, student debates, and political journalism into the Conservative Party, where they achieved Britain's exit from the European Union. They included Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, Daniel Hannan, and Jacob Rees-Mogg. Messrs. Starmer and Khan are from the rival and more entrenched liberal chumocracy of human rights lawyers, technocrats, and job-for-life white-collar bureaucrats. We are now exiting the Great Realignment, the post-2008 reversal of political loyalties. Across America, Republicans have placed the Democrats as the party of the working class. Democrats dominate the wealthiest zip codes. Britain's conservatives collapse because they're too snobbish to be chums with the workers. Labour is collapsing because its inverse snobbery makes it an enemy of free markets. The poles of political strategy have reversed as well. Two anti-liberal theorists explain how politics now works. The Italian communist Antonio Gramsci realized that in a middle-class democracy, the party must control the institutions. The Nazi Carl Schmitt simplified politics into a friend-enemy distinction and the combat that follows. The right are now Gramscians, conquering the administrative state to mobilize it. The Doge episode, in which Elon Musk laid waste to the USAID, was a test run for rebooting the federal bureaucracy. The left are now Schmitt disciples, combating their enemies and favoring their friends. Hunter Biden is pardoned. Joe Biden gets a pass. Mr. Trump is harassed with the kind of political prosecutions that jailed Gramsci, a tactic Schmitt justified because it steadied the ship of state. We translate politia, Aristotle's term for a state and its distribution of power, as a regime. Usually government rotates between parties that agree on the nature of the regime. This is what I've spoken about, that for many, many years we've had the Republican and Democratic parties, and they had different policy prescriptions, different ideas on issues of the day, but they both were basically unified on certain great things. Republicans and Democrats stood together on the idea, for example, of freedom of speech. They both supported it. Republicans and Democrats stood together on the idea of free markets and capitalism. They supported it. Republicans and Democrats shared a basic patriotism and commitment to America, to the American idea, to the American constitutional republic. These were things that unified Americans and basically unified, to some extent, our two great political parties, which in so many other ways opposed one another. We've got a phone call, so this is our first one today, so let's grab it in a hurry before it evaporates. Hello, Evan. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm just kind of wondering, do you know of the Young Turks news network? They tend to be left-leaning media, but I kind of agree with his outspoken criticism. The guy that's founded it, I can't get his a name off 100% correct, but anyway, he's a criticism of corporate influence and establishment politicians. Now, let me kind of, it's interesting, just recently he was on YouTube, and he was surrounded by all these Republicans, and he was in a debate forum. And what was kind of interesting, what he said was, now, I guess the first question was, is Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues and try to divide and distract us with culture wars, in which I kind of agreed with. I'd like to have your thoughts on it, but I'd like to real quick point out that he did say, we've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. He said we've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. And lastly, he said we've tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failures. The only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism, in which I kind of agree with still. They go after corporate elites. A lot of our politicians are kind of corporate elites. They seem to find the corporate people in power to help them get in power. So what's your thoughts, sir?
Well, the guy you're talking about I think his name is pronounced Cenk Uygur. He's an interesting fellow. There's a young woman, Anna Kasparian, I believe, who shares the Young Turk Network. So you began your presentation by asking me if I was familiar with the Young Turks. I think that I've demonstrated that I am. Mr. Uygur is... I believe his ethnicity is Ukrainian. I'm not positive, but he is Eastern European. So he comes from a part of the world in which socialist models have long been quite, part of the political woodwork. And that's the background, the intellectual background he brings. I find his railing about corporate this and corporate that to be kind of, well, it's trying, it really is. The idea that anyone or any group of people attempting to produce a good or service and make a living doing it is somehow a bad person. And that is what corporations are. They are organizations of human beings who come together for the purpose of promoting an enterprise that then offers the public something. Coca-Cola, underarm deodorant, whatever, a new DeSoto. The corporation offers the public something. And the public then has the opportunity to either buy it or not buy it. And in the corporate world, one thing that Mr. Uygur and others don't recognize, whereas capital punishment has faded from our scene, California hasn't executed a capital offender in many years. We have something like 900 people awaiting execution, and none of them will ever actually be executed. But in the corporate world, capital punishment is a very real thing. A corporation that makes bad decisions, has a terrible accident befall it, it's gone. If you look back in magazines, things from earlier days, you'll see advertisements of a company called Union Carbide. Union Carbide was a big corporation. But Union Carbide was running a facility in India that presently, I can't remember the exact details, but this facility was mismanaged. It blew up. A lot of people were killed. And Union Carbide died. The corporation that had allowed that disaster to occur by its negligence died. And there are those of us who would say, well, that's justifiable. If you screw up that bad, you ought to lose your corporate life. Let other people come in and manage those assets and do those things. Hopefully they'll do them better and won't screw up the way you did. So Mr. Uyghur's continual denunciation of corporatism strikes me as rather one-dimensional thought. But he and Ms. Kasparian do have the advantage of bringing a fresh viewpoint, particularly on some political matters, to particularly younger viewers. I don't know what the ethnic, or rather the demographic background of the people who watch the Young Turks is, but I think it's probably younger people. What worries me is that many of those younger people might actually get the idea that corporations are inherently suspect, which nothing could be further from the truth.
Well, I would just have to disagree with you at least with one point, where they don't tend to pay their taxes. And I'm on with, I hate to say it, I'm on with your Democrats when they say these corporations don't pay their fair share of taxes, because they don't. It's fact. They'll use it in forms of other ways. I don't have the specifics on me, but it's there, black and white. These big corporations don't help us out too well when it comes to taxation.
Let me ask you this.
I'd rather
wait a second. Let me interrupt for a second. I've got to ask this. The term fair share is a very subjective term. If I asked you what your fair share of taxes would be, you'd probably come up with a number that tended to work to your advantage. If I asked you what your idea of a corporate tax rate, for example, what should the corporate tax rate be? How much of their profits should they be forced to give to the government?
Well, if Netflix, for example, isn't paying their fair share of taxes, proposed a record $845 million in profits, but received $22 million in federal rebates, it just doesn't seem right when you have your taxes. The tax system seems kind of broken.
You haven't answered my question. What should the corporate tax rate be?
Well, what's the corporate tax rate at the moment, sir? Because I'm not really sure what that is.
Well, you see, that's a problem. You say flatly that corporations are not taxed at a fair rate, and yet next you say, well, I don't know at what rate they're taxed.
The only reason why I'm questioning you is just no. I'm sorry, because the only reason why I'm kind of playing stupid is maybe because your other callers might not know as well.
I don't believe you are stupid. I've never thought that. I've never intimated that. There have been times when I have thought that you were ignorant. That's a difference. That's merely, there's something you don't know. In this particular case, the current corporate tax rate is, I believe, 21%. It was lowered from 35% during Donald Trump's first term in office. The reason for this was because other major industrial powers had lowered their corporate tax rates to around 20, some as low as 18%, for the purpose of attracting corporations. Corporations are a good thing. These governments said, we want corporations to come to our countries, to be formed in our countries, to create jobs in our countries, to make their products in our countries. We want that economic activity. That puts people to work, that creates prosperity. So in order to attract that business activity, we'll offer a lower tax rate. Just like there are people leaving California right now because if you go to Florida or Texas, there's no state income tax. So they figure we can save a lot of money. A lower tax rate is attractive. So the current tax rate for corporations in America is 21%. Now you're telling me that you don't believe that tax rate is fair. I submit to you.
No, I don't. I find our schools are being disrupted. I find our police are being disrupted. I find our fire departments are being disrupted because they're not paying their fair share of their taxes.
No. The reason our schools are in trouble, our schools are not underfunded. The people who tell you that, the teachers' unions and the educational establishment will come and tell you that. They want more money. But they are already getting plenty of money. That doesn't mean they don't want more. All of us want more. But the problem with our educational system has nothing to do with underfunding. It has to do with the way it's administered, the way it's run. We have gotten to the point now where you can actually put more money into the school system and get lower test results. Now you'd think, well, how in the world does that work? Normally you'd think more money should yield a better result, right? No. Bureaucracies reach the point where they are so stultified, so self-benefiting, that additional input actually results in reduced output. And this is not something I'm making up. This is an economic model that has been codified and discovered by, real honest-to-God people with letters after their names. And the public education establishment of today, particularly in a place like California, is a textbook example of that. So our educational system is not in trouble because people aren't paying high enough taxes. There are other reasons that are causing that problem.
Well, I appreciate it, sir. I think we'll kind of agree to disagree with the taxes and how they seem to help us out. You did, give me that question of, well, what do you think corporate taxes are? And we got to that answer of, you think it was about 20% or so.
It is 20,
I think it should.
It is 21%. What do you think it should be?
I think it should be up to 50 to 60% if they're having any offshore profit shifting or any of these tax cuts that these politicians seem to want to go ahead and give them. Let's go ahead and up their taxes and let's see how that, because now we're doing tariffs to go ahead and now that's why we're doing tariffs aren't we?
Evan, I have spoken on this program critically of these tariffs. You've heard me do that. And
yes, sir.
I have been criticized on this program. There are some supporters of Mr. Trump who call me and argue with me and tell me, no, these are great ideas. And I said, no, I don't think they are. We'll have to wait and see. But frankly, I do not predict good results for this. These are taxes. And when you raise these taxes, there are consequences. I would urge you to think about the consequences of raising corporate taxes to 50 or 60%. First of all, bear in mind, corporations do not pay taxes themselves. They collect taxes. How do corporations get the money that is taxed? By selling goods and services to people. So if you increase the tax that a corporation pays, that means that when they sell you toothpaste or Dixie cups or whatever it is they sell, they're going to add that price. Just like, if a landlord who has an apartment or a house to rent, if his property taxes go up, what's he do? He raises the rent. And the tenant is the one who actually winds up paying that. So this is the first thing to think about. But the second thing to think about, as I was telling you, nations a few years ago dropped corporate tax rates around the world in order to attract and facilitate more business, more employment, more economic activity. If the United States of America were to raise its corporate tax rate to 50%, while other countries were offering corporate tax rates far lower, what would happen? Corporations are not nailed down. It's not like this is a municipality like Chicago. You can't move Chicago. It's where it is. But there have been plenty of businesses over the past few years who have left Chicago and gone other places because Chicago's tax policies have been so punitive. I would suggest to you that the policy you advocate would cause economic disaster. People would lose their jobs. Communities would suffer. Tax receipts, incidentally, I mean, you seem to think that if you raise tax rates, you collect more money. That's not necessarily true. If you raise tax rates, but suddenly the people you were taxing either leave or start making less money, your receipts go down.
So I questioned you real quick about because it's a huge topic. The taxes are interesting to me. Granted, what is these tax loopholes and these tax breaks? What do they benefit? Do they benefit the corporations, or do they benefit? Because I don't think they benefit us particularly. I find, and that's why I bring up Netflix, because I seem to think Netflix should go ahead and pay their fair share of taxes. Because when I'm reading, and this could be Democrat stuff, I'm getting this off of the taxhawk.org, and it tells me they benefit their top 5 executives. When you do have tax savings, it benefits them for sure. They get $236 million in federal taxes, so they get to go ahead and pay their executives more. It just doesn't work out for us, and I find these corporations that aren't paying their taxes need to go bye-bye. Netflix is one of them. They have destroyed our economy. Just look at our Blockbusters, our local video stores that have just gone under. You know, I agree with you, but I don't, and I guess I'll leave it at that, sir.
Okay, well,
and leave your show.
You have a tendency to do this. You raise several topics in the course of a presentation. I don't know where to start. Let's start with a lesser point. I would submit to you that it wasn't Netflix alone that destroyed the business model of not just Blockbuster, but there used to be a lot of small, independent, local video stores. There was one over in SoCal, AAA Video, that was locally owned, independent, had a wonderful selection of movies, but it's gone now. And the reason why is because of what's available simply streaming online, not just from Netflix. I mean, I don't think I hardly ever look at Netflix. I look at Turner Classic Movies. I look at YouTube. But there's this huge selection available. If I want to see a given film, I no longer have to get in my car and drive someplace and rent a VHS cassette of it. I can simply sit down and push a few buttons and be looking at it. So that's why Blockbuster went away. It was a matter of a changing technology. It's the same reason why cars replaced buggies. You know, it's the new thing. Now, the other question you asked, the much bigger one, you talked about a tax loophole. A tax loophole is something different from a tax rate. Now, earlier I told you what the tax rate was, and you thought it should be astronomical. I have a problem with that. But
yeah,
now wait a second. Let me finish. I gave you an opportunity. So, gosh, I wish you hadn't done that. Okay, tax loopholes are a different matter. Special tax exemptions, tax advantages, etc. I agree with you about those. And these are a product, incidentally, of something else that you disapprove of, lobbying. When Netflix, for example, wants a particular special tax treatment, they pay people who are politically connected to come to Washington to speak to the appropriate people and try to urge this course. And for various reasons, they're often successful. This is kind of like, think of it as your lawn growing. From one day to the next, you don't notice a difference. But if you go away for a week and come back, it's, oh my God, look at all this. And every once in a while, the lawn gets cut. The last time that happened, seriously, was in 1986, and I would recommend that you look into the Tax Reform Act of 1986. At that time, we had a divided Congress, Republican Senate, Democratic House, and President Reagan was in office. And the process that was gone through to arrive at this, the idea was, let's eliminate tax loopholes. Let's get rid of as many of them as we can. And, of course, the forces of reaction and the status quo were fighting like hell. No, you can't do away with our tax. We need our tax break. We need our tax advantage. And it was a ding-dong battle. And one of the key moments came when Republican Senator Bob Packwood and his chief of staff, who were basically marking up a bill that didn't do very much to reform things, went out for a two-pitcher lunch. And over the course of this, on a napkin, they thought, hey, wait, why don't we just start with zero? And they worked out an idea where even deductions for charitable contributions and local state and local taxes were completely eliminated. Well, that was a bit too extreme, and obviously some of these things came back. But at the end of the day, they produced a bill, and the House and the Senate produced a bill that wiped out so many special tax exemptions that the overall rate for income tax was able to be dropped, the highest rate, 28%. Now, this is a tax rate that had not been seen since probably the 1920s. A very low tax rate, but made possible by the fact that, okay, we're going to impose this tax rate, but everybody has to actually pay it. No write-offs, no loopholes. Your tax rate is 28%, but by God, you're going to pay that amount. And this, I think, is what you're saying to corporate America. You're saying, okay, your tax rate is 21%, but by God, you're going to pay that amount. You don't get to write this off. You don't get special treatments for that. You don't get, in your words, tax loopholes. Now, on that, if that's your idea, then you and I are in agreement.
Well, that's good. I appreciate it. Thanks for the talk, sir. Yeah, it was a good talk. Overall, this again, taxes were interesting to me, and I guess when I'm reading, our taxes are going to go up because they're still thinking of putting this the Santa Cruz to Pajaro train initiatives going on. And I was kind of reading on that before I called in, so figured I'd put that in too, sir. So, it doesn't look good here. I don't want to be paying more money for my bottled waters and, everything there. It's just expensive here, sir. But I don't know. I guess that's what they're doing, trying to get more money for this train initiative for them. So, thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
I wonder if he's right about that. I hope he's not, but Evan seems to keep his ear pretty close to the ground when it comes to local issues of that nature, and it certainly wouldn't surprise me to learn that the people who govern Santa Cruz County would, in their passionate disregard for the public welfare, decide to levy onerous burdens of taxes on the broad population of our county for the purpose of building this boutique railroad. I mean, it's our own version of the high-speed rail program that's bankrupting the state of California. We now have the opportunity to bankrupt our county on our own county-owned, government-owned railroad. When will we learn that in the 21st century, railroads are no longer the new and coming thing? That was then. It's kind of like the government would go out and invest all kinds of money in Blockbuster Video or a buggy whip factory or something else that new technology and new ways of doing things had simply passed by. Now, Evan, I'm grateful to you for mentioning that at the end. Obviously, that has nothing to do with the debates going on in Washington or even in Sacramento. This is a local one. And the good news about that, if you could call it good news, is that it means that your voice can be heard if you want to attend a meeting of the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors. They have a time when people from the public get up and speak. You can tell them what you think. And if you're effective enough doing it, you can move voices or opinions in the audience to come over to your point of view and be willing to join you in lecturing the supervisors that this is not a wise move, that the people of Santa Cruz County do not want to pay outrageous taxes. The last I saw, $1 billion to a county the size of Santa Cruz. $1 billion is a monstrous sum at that point. As soon as you see that number, if you're intelligent, you just say, well, nope, can't afford it. That's that. Just as in your own personal finances. Somebody comes up, shows you something. Hey, that looks really nice. What do you want for it? And they name a figure that is absolutely beyond your means. And you say, oh, well, it's cute, but I'm sorry. It's not for me. And you don't think twice about walking away because you know you can't afford it. For some reason, when people get into government, this idea of affordability simply goes out the window. It's this new monetary scheme. Money is free and money is infinite. As long as you bring that type of mentality to the table, no good result can possibly occur. I'm going to take my commercial break now. I'll be a little bit late for it, but that is perfectly okay. Back in 2 minutes.
Save money on airfare to anywhere. Low Cost Air is the discount supermarket for all domestic and foreign airlines. A funny thing is going to happen when you call Low Cost Air. You're going to talk to a human being within 60 seconds. Save money on airfare to anywhere. Call Low Cost Air to compare at 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662.
Deer fins, wood fins, livestock, chain link, vinyl, iron fins, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
My name is Stephen Bigger. My wife and I live in Royal Oak. When my wife and I were looking to find someone to build our fence, Cypress Coast Fence was highly recommended. It was amazing. These folks are masters at their craft. They're super professional. They came in when they said they were going to come in. They finished when they said they were going to finish. The fence is perfect for our needs, everything they said it was going to be, and then some.
Give us a call for your no-obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fins, wood fins, livestock, chain link, vinyl, iron fins, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
Okay, at 10:50, I want to try to finish a little bit of what I was talking about here with what's going on in Great Britain at the moment. Dominic Green is the author of this piece, and he's talking about what's going on in British politics right now, that the Keir Starmer is attempting to preserve and protect a failing regime. And it hasn't been just he, it's also been the Tories. When Labour suppresses free speech and bad news, panders to Islamists and environmentalists, and runs a two-tier justice system. Maybe you're not familiar with this two-tier justice system. It's going to actually astonish you. In Great Britain today, it is policy that if a given crime is committed, the offender's ethnicity is taken into account. An ethnic Brit, white Caucasian Brit, might be sentenced to 10 years for a given offense. If the offender is a non-white or a Muslim or something of this nature, the sentence for the same offense might be considerably less. Now, does that make sense to you? The same crime is punishable by a heavier penalty if you're white. Here in America, this is unconstitutional and illegal. And in our mother country, right now, it is official policy. This is nuts. It exploits the legislative legacy of the Conservatives' 14-year effort to keep the British regime afloat. The Conservatives initiated speech controls, such as the Public Spaces Protection Orders, under which Christians have been arrested for silent prayer outside of abortion clinics. Non-crime hate incidents in which Britons who speak out receive home visits from police. Both parties minimized the systemic rape and trafficking of white British girls by gangs of mostly Pakistani Muslim origin. That is a real thing. And it was suppressed. And of course, when you suppress reports of rape, what happens? The rapists continue to operate. Nobody hunts them down. Nobody prosecutes them. Instead, they continue their evil practices. But in this foul-minded idea, the perpetrators are Pakistani or Muslim, so they get to do this because these white British girls have it coming. Wow. That sounds ghastly when you say it, and it is ghastly, but that's the only possible justification behind this policy. The only possible explanation. The only possible rationale. Ouch. At the White House in February, Keir Starmer insisted that free speech is fine in Britain and that his government wouldn't get across American citizens. It was already across them. Documents posted on X a few weeks ago by Jim Jordan, congressman from Ohio, show that Ofcom, Britain's broadcast regulator, notified Reddit that it was appropriate that Reddit will be supervised. It's monitoring Reddit's compliance. In August 2024, following anti-immigrant riots across England, the chief of Metropolitan Police threatened to use the full force of the law to come after non-British internet users. Peter Kyle, Labour's Secretary of State for Science, was asked if he would shut down the X platform for contravening the Online Safety Act. We will go after you if you do not take account of the law. Access to British society and economy is a privilege and not a right. This is beginning to look more and more like an attempt to gaslight the British public. But here's what's kind of funny. Britain's regime forfeited its people's trust by bungling the economy, bringing in millions of immigrants, and failing to defend its borders. Sound familiar? It now suppresses legitimate responses by trying to interdict private communications and isolate the British from their free-speaking American cousins. But any teenager with a virtual private network can get around the Great Firewall of London. This is where it breaks down, and this is where Britain still has somewhat of an edge. Today, internet control in, say, China or Cuba or Venezuela is absolute. There are certain places you simply cannot go, certain things you simply cannot see, and if you make serious attempts to do so, you will be detected and apprehended. Now, what Mr. Green is saying, that here in Britain, that's not the case. They have these restrictions in place, but the government is not implementing the draconian measures that other socialist governments do in order to enforce them. In other words, the British still have enough respect for individual rights and freedoms to where they're not running an intelligence police state. Well, what that means, of course, is that information can get out. The truth can be known. And incidentally, under the British system, of course, an election was just held last year. That's a 5-year term. Unless, of course, the government suffers a vote of no confidence in the meantime, or for some other reason Parliament is dissolved and a new election is called early. But in 5 years, obviously this government will not be returned to office. And at that point, the regime change, which Mr. Green is speaking about here, will occur. Regime change in countries like Great Britain is not affected by riots in the streets and by assassinations and programs of public violence. Revolution is affected at the ballot box by voters casting their ballots, just as revolution was affected in this country just a few months ago when Democrats were retired from power and Republicans were sent in to make a change in the direction of government. Time now. Oh, got 2 minutes left before the top of the hour. I continue. Yeah, that phone call from Evan still has me thinking. The idea of closing tax loopholes and making it so that everybody who falls into a particular bracket pays the rate for that bracket. I think that's a great idea. I really do. The problem is Evan recommended raising those brackets to astronomical levels, which I don't think is realistic. On the other hand, I didn't ask him what I thought the tax rate should be on his income. Now, Mr. Evan has made it clear that he's not a person of tremendous means, but it would be interesting to know what he felt his, to use his term, fair share of the tax burden should be. I'm sure that he would not say zero. In my view, everybody should pay some tax. But, the idea that a person of lesser means would pay a lesser tax, that makes sense to me. I wonder if he's still listening. Think about that, Evan, and what is the fair level of taxation that you would see levied on yourself? Interesting question. Okay, we've got just a few seconds left before the top of the hour. I will remind you we are coming up to 11 o'clock. Hour number 3 will commence presently. When it does, you are urged to use the telephone, call in, and take control of the program. 831-265-5050 is the telephone number. 831-265-5050. This is the Charles Freedman radio program, News Talk from 9 to noon every weekday here on SantaCruzVoice.com. The program is available to you online, any place you care to log in. Our listening audience obviously is potentially worldwide, and in actuality falls far short of that. It is now 11 o'clock. I'll see you in 6 minutes. Okay. Twitter suspends the Babylon Bee. Who does it not suspend?
The bird versus the bee.
So on Sunday evening, we got a notice. Hi, the Babylon Bee, your account has been locked for violating the Twitter rules, specifically for violating our rules against hateful conduct. You may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. And our offending tweet was, the Babylon Bee's Man of the Year is Rachel Levine. And
which I thought was a nice honor.
We honored Rachel Levine.
Yeah. She should be thanking us.
So then there's a weird, it says like, we've temporarily limited some of your account features, but basically it just means that we can't tweet. So our account is still up, but we can't get in there. So we thought it would be fun to count down the 10 people who still have a Twitter account despite clearly violating the Twitter hateful conduct rules. So Babylon Bee is banned, but these people are still on. Kathy Griffin, who had on Twitter unapologized for her beheaded Trump photo.
Right. She apologized and said it was wrong, I get it. And then when it was trendy to hate on Trump again, she's like, yeah, I remember I did this thing where I like cut his head off. Remember how cool that was?
This?
I'm relevant again.
Remember me? I exist. I exist. She's one of many celebrities, of course, who wish death on Trump and Republicans and are still on there. She said, I sure did, effer.
But this says... This quote's a different tweet here. It says, Kathy Griffin advocates for someone to stab Donald Trump with a syringe full of air. Air embolisms caused by air getting into the bloodstream can be fatal.
Oh, this is
and she replied, I sure did,
So she wished
effer.
death on him in multiple ways, and that was okay. Noted, Twitter. Noted.
Who else we got?
Everyone's favorite, Michael Moore.
Oh, yes.
He posted, somebody help me with the math. If it sadly took burning down one police precinct HQ and 22 other buildings to get them to arrest just one of the 4 cops, how many unoccupied cars is the city going to force the people to torch to get the other 3 cops running loose behind bars? I would have suspended him because it's just a confusing math problem.
But you missed the best part. He says, peace.
Peace. At the end.
Nicolas Maduro. A brutal dictator accused of using torture tactics ranging from electric shock, genital mutilations, and asphyxiation to kill and maim dissidents.
You handled that sentence very well, Chandler.
Thank you.
But he does share.
That was a mouthful.
He does share fire memes, though.
He has really dank memes.
Where is his meme?
I don't know. I click on it's
his tweet.
I tried to click on his Twitter account, and I'm banned, so I can't actually.
Oh, no. Yeah, see, it'll say, like, log in. Remember password. Oh, wait.
Here's another terrible one. Ryan Johnson, who wrote and directed The Last Jedi. And
he committed that atrocity.
Yeah, he's still on there.
Yeah.
Obviously.
The official Twitter accounts of the spokesman of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, Zabihullah Mujahid, and also Qari Yusuf Ahmad, they're from the Taliban, and they're still the Taliban.
They're still on
the
Twitter.
Taliban is allowed on Twitter, but not Donald Trump or the Babylon Bee.
At this point, it's actually like a fist bump, you know? It's like this is a sign that we're on the a badge of honor. Thank you. It's we're on the right track, you know.
Right.
The objective truth must be restored.
Yes.
And it's so clear that their terms of service, which everyone uses to defend them, mean nothing. They just selectively do this based on who they disagree with.
Yes.
Coordinated.
Louis Farrakhan, leader of the militant black nationalist group, the Nation of Islam. O.J. Simpson is still on there. Joined Twitter. He joined Twitter on the 25th anniversary of his wife's murder.
Gosh. And I'm going to say this wrong. Ayatollah Khamenei is the spiritual head of Iran. And he has tweets still up that call for the elimination of Israel. He says the Zionist regime is a deadly cancerous growth and a detriment to this region. It will undoubtedly be uprooted and destroyed. Then the shame will fall on those who put their facilities at the service of normalization of relations with this regime. And also, the long-lasting virus of Zionism will be uprooted.
But we gave Rachel Levine a Man of the Year award.
Yeah. He has another tweet on here. He says,
makes sense.
Why should and how can Israel be eliminated? My answer to 9 key questions.
He's doing listicles.
9 reasons we should eliminate Israel.
Vladimir Putin is still on Twitter. You can invade a country in Europe and still tweet.
I like that all of Chinese the spokespeople are still there, like Zhao Lijian and various other CCP officials. He spread.
As I listen to this, it reminds me of the bad old days of before Elon Musk purchased Twitter and cleansed it. But this was normal business practice at Twitter until Elon Musk acted, and it was when they pulled this nonsense on him, when they decided, well, we're going to ban you, and he said, "A pig's eye you are." Thank God for that. Okay, it's time to get back to work. Once again, welcome to the Charles Freedman radio program, News Talk from 9 to noon every weekday here on Santa Cruz Voice. Time now is 11:06, which means that our third hour is just beginning. We first 6 minutes already used for news and weather. That's fine. Now it's our turn. So you have the opportunity to make the program yours. All you have to do is call 831-265-5050, and you can take us in any direction you'd like. We've had a phone call today. Love to get a second one. So remember, whatever you want to say it here. During the break, for the benefit of the people listening to the podcast, I've been playing, as is my wont, some Babylon Bee presentations. This one was a few years old, and it had it was presented right after Twitter banned the Babylon Bee for violating their policies. And we don't like you to be advocate violence or this, that, or the other thing. What have they done? They gave their Man of the Year award to, I can't remember the name, but a trans person. And this is a satire. This is supposed to be funny. Ha ha. Maybe you don't think it's funny. Don't laugh. But nevertheless, this is the type of thing that if you are an agendized, hyperventilating leftist, gets you canceled. And that's what Twitter did. And so the Babylon Bee came up with this. Okay, here are a bunch of people who aren't canceled. And they come up with the Ayatollah Khamenei, the Taliban, others who have posted quite literally calls for violent acts, calls for attacks against human beings. One show business person, I can't remember who it was, said, I want somebody to attack Donald Trump with a hypodermic with air. Now, if you know anything about that, you understand that if air bubbles are injected into the bloodstream, it's fatal. That will kill you. And so here was somebody calling for the murder of another human being. And Twitter was fine with that. But they weren't fine with the Babylon Bee because, of course, the object of their satire was somebody beyond the, somebody of whom the Twitter executives felt was inviolate or should be. And I made the point to my podcast listeners, this is part of the past. This is when it was still Twitter. It is no longer Twitter. Twitter is gone. And it's interesting. You know me. I generally am very averse to name changes. I never quit calling Mount McKinley Mount McKinley. The idea of calling the Caribbeans, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America seems ridiculous to me, and I don't do it. Ceylon is still Ceylon. Siam is Siam. And to me, Persia is still Persia. But when it comes to Twitter, I now refer to it as X. I have embraced and surrounded and made mine this particular change in nomenclature. That's an unusual thing for me. And why is it that I have done this? Because I regard the change from Twitter to X as such an improvement. What happened there? Well, I've been mentioning how Twitter had decided that the Babylon Bee was politically unacceptable, so they banned them. At this same time, President Trump was banned because of something they'd taken umbrage at. So were a number of other people. Then they banned Elon Musk. That's right. The censors at Twitter decided that something Elon Musk had said was simply so hateful and violent that we can't possibly have it posted. In the meantime, they're affording a platform to the Taliban and to Nicolas Maduro, the baby-eating dictator of Venezuela. So, I mean, if you're going to indulge in this kind of thing, at least be consistent. But no, our fair-haired boys and girls can say whatever they want. Here's the Ayatollah. Here are 9 different reasons why Israel should be exterminated. oh, that's fine with us. But if you advocate giving the Man of the Year award to a trans person, you're just a hateful monster and you can't say that and we're going to smite you. So I don't know exactly what it was that Elon Musk posted that got him banned from Twitter. But Elon Musk, being Elon Musk, said, the hell you say. I'm going to buy Twitter. And he did. Now, Elon Musk is a shrewd businessman. That's one of the reasons why he is, I think he's the richest person in the world right now, with a net worth of hundreds of billions of dollars. This is why he could decide, I'm going to purchase Twitter. Nobody else had that horsepower. Donald Trump couldn't do it, but Elon Musk could. And he paid more for it than he should. This is something most shrewd businessmen don't do. They like to drive a hard bargain. Mr. Musk paid something like $50 billion for Twitter. But once he got hold of it, what did he do? He cleansed it. Elon Musk cleansed Twitter. For one thing, he came up with the idea, we call ourselves here a platform, not a publisher. A publisher is responsible for what's carried on the medium and can be held to account for it. A platform, under law, is not. The platform's function is kind of like a public bulletin board or a fence or something like that. Anybody who comes along can post their handbill, paint a picture and, Kilroy was here or whatever they want to do. And it's a place for free speech, whatever that speech happens to be. Elon Musk took that seriously. Elon Musk, the First Amendment hawk. Of course, his opponents have criticized, oh, you want Nazi propaganda posted on X. No, he doesn't. There are a lot of things posted on a platform that the guy who's running the platform might not like. Elon Musk is enough of an adult and enough of a free speech advocate to understand that. So he lost money purchasing X, although in the long run he may wind up coming out on top. But as of yet, this is still a net loser for him. But he cleansed the platform, and he also, and for this, God bless him, opened the email files of Twitter to general inspection. Enter Matt Taibbi, an exceptionally talented journalist. One of those guys who actually does want to get the answers to questions, does want to find out the truth of matters. And Taibbi did a deep dive. If you want to see the results, go on your search engine and type in Twitter files. Twitter files. And you can see the results. This is something that your average human being doesn't have the time to dive in and read all of these emails. So Matt Taibbi did that for you. And what did he discover? That it wasn't just the censors at Twitter who were deciding who gets banned and who doesn't. It was agents and employees of the federal government who were in communication with them on a constant, ongoing basis and giving clear direction as to who. It would be nice if this guy were to be deplatformed. It would be nice if nobody heard from this person anymore. In my view, this constitutes, in effect, a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States by government officials. Of course, they'll never be prosecuted for that. but we know what happened thanks to Elon Musk and Matt Taibbi. And for that reason, hallowed be their names. I've got, let me see, is this Buck? Yeah, let's go ahead and talk with him. There we go. Hi there. How are you doing?
Hey, Charlie. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I heard you talking about Elon Musk, and I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk. But I would say that he is going to, 10x his money of buying Twitter and making it X. It's not a loser, and it's going to make him an extremely large amount of money.
In the long run,
platform.
Buck, in the long run, I tend to agree with you. At the outset, he lost a tremendous amount because many of the advertisers on Twitter who had supported its pejorative policies decided to walk away. Pressure was brought by the establishment figures who were outraged at this. Boycott X, don't advertise, etc. So the revenues plunged. But over time,
in the same way that Tesla.
Over time, the platform has recovered. People have come to regard it as more of a platform than it used to be. So Mr. Musk's changes in management there have made it more attractive, and advertising has recovered. And as a result, I believe when you say in the long run this will be profitable for Mr. Musk, Buck, I agree with you.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like saying that, buying a house is going to, cost you money. It does at first, and then over time it should appreciate in value. But more importantly, Elon Musk sold X, and he sold X to his own AI company called XAI, which now owns Twitter, a.k.a. X. And the main purpose for him to have Twitter, not only for the freedom of speech, which, as you say, he's a hawk, but more importantly, the data collection that he gets from X, and also in the same respects that Tesla is the largest data collecting of any driver out there. So every Tesla that's on the road records where it's going, how fast it's gone, if there's a hard turn, if there's a collision, all those things. Not to mention they all have multiple cameras. They're always on looking. So Elon Musk essentially has one of the largest data mining collection businesses in the world. And essentially that's where a large majority of his money is being made from.
I wonder, do you see him as profiting from this? Is he then using that data? Is he selling it? Is he making it available for a price to other corporate entities?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know that he uses it in his own businesses, especially with his AI company, learning human interactions, learning where those people go, learning who they talk to, how they talk, and that's all for his, robots that he's making, his autonomous robots that he'll eventually send to Mars, which he'll have in his factories, which he'll use for those things. He's also starting an insurance company. So anyone with a Tesla can be part of his insurance company, and they can be ranked based on how they drive. And so a potential good driver driving a Tesla could have half the cost of insurance as another driver who's aggressive and driving crazy, without just age requirements like, males under 25 being in the highest bracket and so on and such forth. So, to say that his purchase of X, I wouldn't be surprised if, his return on investment is, halfway there or less.
Well, let me make sure. First of all, it strikes me that you've talked about, for example, Tesla. So if a guy buys a Tesla, say I buy a Tesla, obviously at that point, you're saying Elon Musk has access to knowledge about me because there's equipment on board the Tesla, takes pictures of where I go, keeps a record of where and how I drive, etc. But also, if I've bought a Tesla, my guess is that Elon Musk also, or his organization also, will have my email address, right?
Could be, could not be.
Well, I don't see how it would be avoidable. If you bought a Tesla, and you've indulged in this, you've taken part in this transaction. This is the purchase of an automobile. You bought the car from Tesla. They are going to be in touch with you continually. Okay, this is when you bring your car in for maintenance. These are the latest updates or upgrades available. If you buy a Tesla, the Musk organization is going to have your email number and is going to be sending you emails. I guarantee that.
Sure.
So, at this point, you're saying Mr. Musk might benefit by this knowledge of you. If somehow they're scanning your email account and figuring out what sites you visit and what video preferences you have.
No. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is he has the car's data.
Okay.
Whether he has your data or he's using your data for something, he has the biggest research on cars there is. He has real-time data from every car that he has and how it drives and how it performs and all that kind of stuff. Without an email, he doesn't need an email. He doesn't even need to know a demographic of the person.
Oh, okay.
He just has the information of what they're doing and how it is.
Okay.
And so he's making it, his money is basically in free R&D. He's got everyone who's driving giving him real-time data for his self-driving cars.
Okay, I get it. So you're not talking about Elon Musk being this kind of personal information vacuum cleaner. Nothing like that. Rather, instead, you're talking about a much more limited thing. You're talking about the automobiles themselves and how, due to the mechanisms on these automobiles, the cameras, observational technology, etc., that he has all of this information, and this is valuable. How? I mean, he now understands. People who drive Teslas drive here, there, etc., etc. They drive fast or slow. How is this monetized for Mr. Musk? How does this help him?
Well, mostly in the data collection of how the vehicles operate, where they're going, how long they're there, charging stations. I'm guessing that information over 5-10 years will go towards the self-driving revolution, where
okay,
he'll have those vehicles showing up at certain areas. And
I think I was operating under a misapprehension. I was thinking that here the ultimate goal was the driver. No, you're telling me the ultimate goal is the product itself. And by learning more about the product, the way it's used, etc., this makes it possible to improve, to fine-tune, to better suit the product, the car, to the people who are going to be using it and the environments in which it's going to be used. Is that closer to your idea?
That's closer to my idea. And also he has personally said and has been on record as thinking that within the next decade, there will be a humanoid robot for every human on Earth. So in that, there's got to be some kind of collective brain in the way these things work and how they operate. And he's getting real-time data from every driver. He's getting real-time data from every X user. anytime someone gets pissed off for example, every time someone says Free Palestine on X, boom, he's got a click of that. That goes into a database. Every time someone is pro Israel, there's a click there. Every time someone says something good or bad about Trump, boom, there's data that goes into his Grok, that goes into his cars, that goes into his AI infrastructure, and that is snowballing at such a rate that he would never have been able to do that if he hadn't got Twitter, because he wouldn't have that data. Like Google's and everything, they're based on search. So if someone searches something, they have a click. All right, someone searched Charlie Freeman, or someone searched, solar panels, or whatever the case is. He has that information, and so does his supercomputer. And that's where he will be making money, and that's where he will be making strides over, because Charlie, he wants to have, however many rocket ships on Mars. He wants to have a whole colony of robots that are building and colonizing Mars, and that's his goal.
Well, I'd say that having robots do the job makes a lot more sense than having human beings do it. Robots don't need the elaborate and very extensive and expensive systems of life support that human beings would require. So their functionality in an environment like Mars would be a far simpler matter than sending people. Do you think...
Well, keep in mind, before they send them to Mars, they're going to be having them in the Texas, and they're going to have them in the deserts or someplace, trying to be able to build and do places like that.
Yeah, Buck, I hate like poison to tell you this, but just in the last few seconds, your transmission has become much poorer. We were having no trouble reading you until just a few moments ago. Did you move from room to room, or stand large to next to a large magnet or something?
It turns out I left my phone on the workbench and walked to the other side of the building that I'm working on.
Oh, okay. Well, don't do that.
Is it better now?
Yes, I can understand you again. Perhaps if you'd be kind enough to repeat the last few words you were saying.
I was just saying that, the speed at which he is revolutionizing industries, ways of speaking, things like getting Doge up. There's also been lots of reports of how he's able to go in and do things at businesses that take years or, half a year to get done. He's able to get done extremely efficient and a lot faster. And he does that through the building of his supercomputer and his AI. And it's really going to start snowballing quickly. And I'm a big fan of him, but don't make the misnomer that he only did it for free speech and that he took a huge hit. He made a gamble on an investment, and that gamble is going to be Apple stock type gains.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I understand. You're being rather visionary here, and I find that's why I was having trouble for a while actually wrapping my mind around what you were trying to tell me. I'm glad you were patient and continued explaining it until I finally, the light finally came on. A personal question. You don't have to answer this, obviously. None of my damn business. But how old are you?
I'm 46.
Okay. So you're about 30 years younger, almost 30 years younger than I am. So you can reasonably expect to see a lot of this happen within your lifetime. Are you
apprehensive? A lot of this is going to happen in your lifetime, Charlie.
Well, I'm 73. I figure I'll probably be around. I feel good. I'm in good health. My back is bad. My teeth are giving me trouble. But other than that, I expect to be around probably for at least another 10 years or so. So you figure that short a time frame?
It could even be half of that time frame. But essentially, for sure, in 10 years, you won't even be able to recognize some of the technologies that have come forth. I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to talk about the Jetsons and how, he always thought that by the time he had kids, there was going to be self-driving cars and all that kind of stuff. And all my life, I've been hearing about self-driving cars and that kind of stuff. Well, we live in a world where we have self-driving cars. We're going to have self-driving drone-type taxis. Santa Cruz company Joby, that's making a lot of headlines for its helicopter-type transport. We're going to be having lots of deliveries that are going to come from the sky, that are going to come in robots like from Amazon and that kind of stuff. The way this thing is going, it's going to transform so quickly, and you will be alive to see it, Charlie.
You know what? This may be a boon for me. As it is, I still drive. As I said, I'm in good shape. I can function. But when I was a younger man, I liked driving. I really enjoyed it. And I had cars that were fun to drive. Today, the car I drive is no fun to drive. It has an automatic transmission, power steering. It's big and clunky. There's no fun in driving, and it's just a matter of you get where you want to go, and it's dependable, and that's all very nice. But the way you're talking here, I could conceivably, it's expensive to maintain a car. I just had to have it smogged. I got to pay license registration. I got to pay insurance. All that I have to pay even if I don't drive it. So maybe there's a time when I'll be able to simply dispense with owning an automobile altogether. And if I want to go somewhere, like today, after work, I have to go over to Aptos and get a haircut. I would just ask this self-driving car to present itself at my door and say, okay, I need to be at such and such an address at 2:30. And it drives me there and waits for me while I get my haircut and then drives me home. And I make a payment to somebody for that ride. And I don't have to own a car anymore. And I don't have to drive anymore. This sounds great to me, Buck.
Well, you already live in that time, Charlie. The only difference is it's not a robot driving it. It's a human, and you have an app on your phone. You don't have a smartphone, but most people like me have a smartphone. I listen to you in one earbud on my smartphone while I'm walking around a roof or under a house. And if I wanted to get picked up, I could go on my app on my phone, get an Uber, and in 5 minutes have a real person drive me to that appointment. And in 5 years from now, you won't need to have a person. You'll have that robot. Also, in that same respect, you can rent a car or ride share a car currently in Santa Cruz with the same thing, and you can get a car that someone else owns and use it by the day, just like a rental company, but at the click of a finger button on your phone. So a lot of things are changing, and I've always loved listening to the old timers, and that's probably one of the reasons I like your show. No offense, is that I get a little glimpse into the past, and listening to your shows, I most think we're a little bit too close to the 30s, but maybe a view from the 30s is better than some of the views from now, so I appreciate that part of it. But really, times are changing, and I listen to your show, and it surprises me how much of those things you're not privy to. But I still enjoy listening anyways.
Well, I'm grateful to you for this call, and that criticism that you just offered was really valuable. I'm conscious of this. That this is not something that I'm not aware of, and from time to time, I don't. My wife will tell you, of all the people in this world, I'm one of the most allergic to basic change that there is. Rearrange the furniture and I go ballistic. But the idea that you would call in and say, there's an awful lot of things going on in the world that are of great importance and that are not on your radar. And for the people who call in like you and say, hey, Charles, here are some of the things that are happening and that you need to know about. This is one of the more valuable calls I've had in a while for that reason. And your criticism of saying, you know, this is one of your blind spots, one of your shortages, I'm cognizant of that. I admit it. I'm not really proud of it. It's just, you know, hey, that's the way I am. Just like, you know, Bill Clinton's a skirt chaser, and me, I'm a conservative in that classical sense. That's, you know, that's our basic makeup. But thank you for calling up and imparting some of this to me. And, you know, this idea you began with, that Elon Musk may have lost some money at the outset by buying X, but here is another reason. Yeah, I always thought that he'd eventually come out on it, but now you're saying, no, Charles, you're not really thinking of it. This is the real reason why X is going to be a big moneymaker for Elon Musk, and it goes way beyond anything you were thinking of.
Well, you know what G.I. Joe says, Charlie?
No, what did G.I. Joe say?
Is half the battle.
Say what? Say what?
He said that knowing is half the battle.
Aha. Well, that's pretty good words to live by. But again, thank you. This has been very interesting. And you're saying that, well, hell, I don't know. Do I want to call an Uber if all I want to do is go to Safeway?
I mean, I guess it depends on if you want to see your car sit in the driveway for 4 days out of the week so that you can drive it, you know, the 4 miles to Safeway once a week or whatever. I mean, that's something that you'd have to. I remember my grandpa, he had a Buick Centurion, and he lived like a half a mile from the grocery store, and he'd always drive it 2 or 3 miles extra because he said he didn't want his tailpipe to rot out with all the condensation. If he only drove a half mile, it wouldn't get warmed up and out. So, I mean, we all make the decisions based on what we feel is the best way to go. And I personally always want to have a car, and I want to have one that's powered by fuel. And I would absolutely love to have an electric car to go next to my Ford F-350 diesel truck that gets all the stuff I need to go to work. And then on the weekends, I'd love to drive an electric car that got me where I went lickety-split and was quiet and fast. But I'm a gas guzzler for now.
Well, it sounds like obviously the automobile you drive is well suited to the things you do and what you have to do. But you're saying, gee, ideally I would have 2 cars, very different cars for different aspects of my life. And right now, I guess you're not at the point where it's affordable for you to have both of those 2 cars. So you have the one that's more important. But I guess if you hit the lottery, the first thing you do is go out and buy yourself a small electric car and be able to enjoy this benefit that you've just described.
Yeah, but you know, we all make decisions based on our means, and you know, I'll be working hard to have better means. And I think guys like Evan, you know, should think a little bit more about these corporate companies that put people to work and, you know, have the great benefits that we all like being able to go to Safeway and have a huge place that always has the things we want to have. And so, I mean, I think that, you know, when it comes to that, like, hey, if that business is around and it does something good for us and it can make money, and who are we to say that they can't make more money? So
yeah,
that's another tangent. But
well,
anyway,
yeah,
I gotta let you.
This is a basic.
Let you go, Charlie. But
okay. Well, thank you for the phone call. I've been really interested, and I've learned a few things. I always talk about learning things on the program. Today's a really good example of that. Thanks for sharing the time.
Hey, you're welcome, Charlie, and thanks for being on the air, and I'll be listening.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Man, so he's saying, Charles, you don't realize how fast this is working. You're already to the point where if you wanted to, you could dispense with your car and just call an Uber when you want to go somewhere. Well, My wife just went to visit her brother who's having a hip replacement, so she wanted to be with him. How'd she get to the airport? It was the middle of the night, so instead of having me drive her, she called an Uber. And it was just that simple. Yeah. Maybe I ought to think about that. I'll take the next 2 minutes anyway and think about it. It's 11:41. Great phone call. You want to try your luck? You could be the next one. See if you could do as well. 831-265-5050. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Back in the 16th century, a famous prophet and psychic, Nostradamus, predicted great disasters. Hundreds of years later, believe it or not, a lot of his predictions have come true. Today we have another psychic and prophet among us. His name is Nostradamus. His great ability to predict when home repairs, primarily a roof, will become a much-needed thing is truly remarkable. His predictions have been renowned and recorded for many years now. Yes, Nostradamus can be found, a key owner at Knox Roofing, and he can give you accurate advice on when your roof will leak. His ability to see your home completed with only the best products and services is truly amazing. If you need a sitting with Nostradamus, all you need to do is call 461-0634, and you can receive a free reading of your home's life and its life-changing events about to occur. Okay, thanks, folks.
Treehouse dispenses not only the finest cannabis products, but information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Hello, I'm Jenna. If you would like to know how best to use cannabis, ask your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive. If you're 21 plus with a valid ID, no appointment is necessary and the information is free. Order online at ourtreehouse.io and pick up at our drive-thru. See you soon.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Okay, I is back at 11:43. Just a little over a quarter of an hour left in today's program, but that's plenty to take a phone call from you and give you the opportunity to elucidate those things that you would like to talk about. 831-265-5050 is the telephone number. Got a couple of emails here. One from Malcolm. Elon Musk has said accounts may be freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. X Premium shows visibility labels now. I don't know what a visibility label is. Let's see here. Examples of banning or suspension. So evidently there has been somebody, at least, Alex Jones of InfoWars has been banned. Hate speech, harassment, and speaking conspiracy theories. Well, permanently banned in 2018, not reinstated under Musk as of 2023. This is a real good one to pick as a test case. Alex Jones is just, insofar as I'm concerned, he is completely round the bend. Everything that comes out of his mouth is, well, basically a bunch of nonsense. Again, you know me, I'll try anything. So one time I tuned in Alex Jones' radio program. I went, okay, what does this man say? He was talking about Ronald Reagan, former President Reagan, a man whose career and politics I'm very familiar with. So when he started talking about how Reagan was a communist in Hollywood, I'm saying, that's not true. He never was. And then, well, he became president and started to do a pretty good job, but then they had him shot. I mean, the guy who shot him was a nut who was in love with Jodie Foster. We know this. Just like the guy who shot McKinley was a crazed anarchist. The guy who shot Garfield was a deranged office seeker. This is how it often happens. The guy who shot Bobby Kennedy was a Palestinian extremist. Hamas. So they had him shot. So I guess maybe the idea here is somehow some group of people engaged in a cabal to get John Hinckley to shoot Reagan. And then, and here was the icing on the cake. When Reagan was in hospital recovering from his gunshot wound, they subjected him to a regime of drugs, mind-altering drugs, and thus got control of President Reagan and retained that control through drugs through the rest of Reagan's presidency. At that point, I mean, Alex Jones is a complete moron. If he believes this stuff, he's a moron. He's a nut. And I'm wasting my time listening to it. Does that mean that he should be banned? No, I don't think so. I am a First Amendment hawk. Even Alex Jones has the right to say the most idiotic things, and we have the right to turn him off. Phil is on the line here. It says he's calling about a lost cell phone. Phil, I'm looking all over the place. I don't see it here.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on yesterday. I never got a chance to hear the rest of the discussion about the redistricting. I had a little mishap, which I'd rather not discuss on air. But
oh dear!
I'm fine. In the chaos that ensued, my cell phone disappeared, and we traced it this morning to a house in another county. And I was just curious if you or any of your listeners have any advice. I've already let the police know over there where it is. If you have any advice on how to best retrieve that phone at this point. I've blocked it from use, so he's not going to be able to get into it. But I do want the phone back. So if you have any ideas in the next few minutes, if anyone would like to call in, I'd be happy to speak about it.
Oh my God! So some unauthorized person is in possession of your cell phone.
Yes, on a street in a town where I've been in the town where it is, but I've never been on that street, so it's nobody that I know. And somebody just made off with it, obviously, and I don't know what they intend to do with it because it's blocked. But the sheriff knows.
Oh my God! Well, I wish I had advice for you. My wife carries one of those things around, and I don't know. On the one hand, I can see some of the advantages, but when I watch her, we sit down to watch a movie together, and as often as not, she'll be, watching the movie with one eye. With the other eye, she's got her cell phone in her hand. She's dicking around with it, and I'm thinking to myself, that is not the way I want to live my life. And so the idea of getting one of these things myself, and of course the other thing that I've noticed is that she mislays it, and then spends considerable time. Oh my God, where did I leave it? Is it down at the grocery store? This, that, the other thing. I had forgotten altogether about the possibility of theft, and somebody simply saying, "Oh, hey, there's a cell phone. I think I'll help myself." My God, given the amount of use that I see some people get out of these, losing it, once you've come to have all that personal information on it, etc. This is a major thing. I am very sorry, Phil, that this happened to you, and unfortunately, I don't have any bright ideas. It strikes me that you're probably going to wind up having to buy a new cell phone.
That is a possibility, which I would not look forward to because they are expensive. I'm also concerned about, and I know you're not the tech guy to call. You have a tech guy at your station, but I don't want to lose all the information that's on it. Now it's blocked, so this thief can't see what's on there. But I want it back because I can't remember it all. That's why it's there. For example, an address book. I still have a paper one at home, but I haven't been disciplined enough to keep filling it out. A lot of these numbers are only available on my cell phone, and trying to track them all down would be very time consuming. So I really want the information back even more than I want the physical phone back.
Well, you mentioned...
So I think that's... Yeah, I think that stuff may be backed up in the cloud, but again, I'm not a tech guy, so
Yeah, that's the
maybe Luigi.
That's the possibility. That
Luigi's the one I need to call.
Yeah, he would definitely be able to help you with that. I understand what you're talking about. The idea that if these things are in well, like your email account, that's in the cloud, and you would be able to use any device and
Yes.
go to your email, and there it all is. Some of the rest of this might conceivably just be on your local computer. I can't think of a thing I have on mine. I don't have an address book. I've got this little box full of 3x5 file cards that I keep all that stuff on. And also there's this scrap of paper that I have a bunch of random phone numbers written down on. And, you turn the paper you turn the paper one way to read this one and another way to read that one. But the other day when I needed a number off of it, by God, there it was. So it works. It works for me. Hey, we've got a caller who might want to be able to share something with you. Here it says my phone issue. Let's bring him along and see what he's got to offer. Hi there.
Hi. Hey Phil, this is Mark. I feel sorry for Phil. I know that's really sucks. But having purchased new phones, and all he has to do is have somebody help him. He gets a new phone, log into his iPhone account, which I know he has because he was able to track it. All his contacts, his pictures, even files that he saved on the phone will come right back to his new phone, almost as if he never lost it. So it, provided he found it through an account that he has, I assume that he found it through Find My iPhone or whatever they call it. And if he has that, then everything will come back just as if you never lost it with a new phone. And then he could go back into the account, preferably do it from a computer, and then just kill that iPhone that is lost. And then they won't even be able to sell it for parts because all the parts are registered, and that phone will be worthless. I don't know why people even steal iPhones anymore, especially since you were able to lock it. But all is not lost, sort of.
Okay,
you're just out money.
That's comforting. If if all I need to do is buy a new phone, I'll be much calmer than if I know all the data's gone. So that was a very helpful call.
No, you should be fine, just as long as you can log into your when you get your new phone, hopefully you have your password and everything, and you can just log right back into your, when you get your new phone, you log into your phone, your new one, and then everything will come back. And then just go online. I think you have to do it through a computer, and then you can find your old phone. I forget how you find it, but you can find your old phone and literally kill it. Just take it off, wipe it out, and you're done. So you did the right thing up to this point.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next thing is to murder your old phone, like wipe it clean as soon as and from your account, you're good to go.
Okay, that's comforting to know.
Yeah.
Very good.
You did the right thing. A lot of people, I've seen misery when people don't back up their phones on the cloud. And this is exactly what can happen. You lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
Always back up your phone like you did.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised somebody 50 miles away has it. It's so strange. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the cops will do for you. I've had that happen from a lady in Monterey, California, where she got her phone stolen from a hospital, and they tracked it down to an apartment. They thought it was an employee, and they had the phone. They rang the phone. They could hear the phone, but the cops didn't know exactly what apartment it was because they couldn't So they said, "I'm sorry, we can't do anything for you. Just lock your phone and call it a day. Get a new phone."
This should be easier because this house is way out in the country. So,
yeah.
Yeah. I have the exact
might be able to
address.
retrieve it. Yeah. I would not worry about getting a new, trying to get to it. I would just replace your phone and then kill the sucker. I think that's the best thing to do, but I know it's a lot of money.
Great. Okay. Well, this is, this
and
is
then
the
hope the
best
cops can
consumer advice.
retrieve it. Yeah.
Yep. That would be better yet. But
Okay.
I'm satisfied, with what you just told me. That really calmed me down.
Yeah. As long as you have your login and everything, you're fine.
Yep. I'm fine.
Okay. I got to get
Okay.
going. So good luck with your issues.
Thank you, Mark, and I'll
problem.
looking forward to your next call.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Right. Bye-bye.
Well, I'm just
Shirley,
I'm just so glad
your
that
show is a
happened.
public service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for taking the time. This has happened occasionally in the years I've been doing this, that a listener will call in with a problem that I don't have anything constructive to offer, but some listener does. And they take the time to call in and offer some meaningful help and advice. And I'm just grateful to have been able to be the middleman in this case. I guess you could call me the facilitator, the one who put the two of you together. But thank you very much, Mark, for reacting as you did and giving Phil the benefit of your knowledge.
Yep. There's a wonderful radio show that does that. It's been on for many decades. And I've mentioned this station before, so it's no secret. WJEJ out of Hagerstown, Maryland. They still play some of the music you like and a lot of the music I like. And at 11 a.m. on weekdays, they have something called the Phone Party, which, as I said, has been running since the 40s or 50s. And they don't talk politics at all. It's all helpful advice, such as the kind of thing Mark just gave me. Some of it's local stuff, and some of it applies to everybody. But Lou Scally, the morning man there, does a terrific job. I'm sorry to promote another station on this program, but he's wonderful. And so are you.
Well, thank you very much for that, sir. And I'm just really so grateful that you called the program with a problem, a real problem that's bothering you, and we were able to have somebody call in and offer some meaningful help. I'm thrilled. I really am. I'm just very happy about that.
Yeah, everything I expected and more.
Well, thank you so much. Good luck to you, and please call us again and let us know how this all comes out. And don't take it upon yourself to go over to that other place with a baseball bat and demand your phone back.
No, that's real outback there. I wouldn't go out there by myself, period.
Okay, good for
you.
you.
Never know what's out there. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for the call. Best to Roz, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, it is 8 seconds before the end of the program today. I'm Charles Freedman. Thank you very much for listening. See you tomorrow at 9:06 for another Charles Freedman radio program. It's 12 noon.